The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full hired themselves out for bread, and they that were hungry have stopped being hungry. So the barren has given birth to 7, and she that had many children is waxed feeble. The Lord kills and makes alive, he brings down to the grave and he brings up. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. And my spirit hath rejoiced in God my Saviour. He has shewed strength with his arm, he hath scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. He hath put down the mighty from their seats, and exalted them of low degree. These are 3 texts that were written about 4,000 years apart. The first one was written by Miriam and sung after the liberation of the Israelites from Exodus. The second one was written by Hannah, celebrating after having given birth to her firstborn son Samuel. And the third one was written by Mary in the 6th month or so of her pregnancy with Jesus. What is interesting to note is that these texts and these scriptures happen about 4,000 years apart, but they sound like one text, they sound like one verse. They sound like one theme of praise and one theme of song. Miriam is a woman of undescribed age, but possibly in the mid-40s when she left Egypt. She is a younger sister or older sister to the famous Aaron and Moses. She is the one who kept Moses safe when he was to be killed by the Pharaoh. She's the one who made sure that the princess of Egypt got him. She's the one that watched over him as his little baby carrier floated up and down the Nile. She's the one who then arranged for Moses to be breastfed by his own mother and taught by his own mother, who then taught him the history of the Hebrews and what they were doing in Egypt. Miriam inadvertently, or in a very small way, participated in the grooming and the raising and the salvation of their Savior all those years later. In Hannah, we have the mother of a prophet who began the era of kings. Samuel was a righteous prophet, a righteous man, who was an example or a contrast to Eli, and his sons and their corrupt rule as the priests of Israel. She is the one that gave birth to the man who would crown Saul, who would crown David and chastise them both and guide the first 2 kings of Israel through their experiences and through their reign. And then in the third, we have a woman who is given birth, or who is expected to give birth, a young teenager, to the Messiah himself, to Jesus Christ himself. These are 3 different women who grow up in 3 different places. One grows up in Africa, in Egypt, the other grows up somewhere in the middle of Palestine, and the other one grows up in Nazareth. They have different experiences. We meet them at different places of their lives. Miriam, we are not told whether or not she was ever married, ever had children. Hannah has a husband but no kids. Mary has a kid but no husband yet. They are different in age, they are different in approach, they are different in the way that they approach the throne of God. They are different in the experiences that they are singing about. They are different in the things that they are giving praise to. But the praise of Miriam inspires the praise of Hannah, which then inspires the praise of Mary. And so I want to remind us today and to encourage and to exhort us that no matter what our experiences are and where we are in the process, number one, our worship, our means of praise, our experiences, our songs to God have a value and a worth because of where we are at that point. The praise of a wife will not be the same as the praise of a single woman. The praise of a divorced woman will not be the same as the praise of a woman who was never married. The praise of a black woman might not be the same as the praise of a colored woman. The praise of a white woman might not be the same as the praise of an Indian woman. The praise of a Mafumwashe might not be the same as the praise of the last one. And yet look at how beautifully all of these experiences weave together to give us one possible and one experience of God. Imagine if Mary had said, Chadama, there's nothing that I can say to you. Imagine if Miriam had said, I have no children, there's no point in me preaching or singing Imagine if Hannah had said, I gave my son back to the Lord. There's no evidence that I was ever a mother, and so there's no point in me speaking. Imagine if someone says, I'm not married, I don't have an Elkanah who loves me and who adores me and who gives me a double portion and who asks me if I'm not worth 10 sons to him. And all of them had kept themselves quiet because they did not think that their experiences were important or relevant enough. The only person who knew at the time what she was doing with any certainty was Mary, because she knew she was giving birth to the Messiah. But Miriam was just celebrating her freedom and her liberation. Hannah was just celebrating finally having a baby. She threw a baby shower and sang praises to the Lord and her baby shower. That's all she was doing. And yet they don't know that today, almost 4,000 years later, there are women sitting here somewhere in graves, recounting their experiences and celebrating the fact that they existed. And so please do not sit and look at your offering of praise and worship and dismiss it and think it is small because of where you are at your point in time, or think that it is insignificant for where you are at your point in time, or think that there is something so horrible or shameful about your experience that it is not possible that it will be part of a beautiful gospel later on. And not only do I want to point that out, I don't want to point out only the differences in the women, but I want to point out the similarity in the God they serve. Because the same God who was able to rescue 2 million slaves from Egypt is the same God who was able to shrink into the microscopic contents of the womb and plant a baby in there. And it's the same God who was able to bring a baby into fruition out of nothing except the mother's egg. And then we have a Messiah called Jesus. The same God who delivers in Egypt using plagues, using flies and fleas and frogs and the death of the firstborn is the same God who was able to save in 1 Samuel by introducing us to a prophet who would be better than the former one. And he's also the same God who was able to save to the utmost in the book of Luke chapter 1. And so we celebrate the stories of these women not only because these women existed, but because the God they're speaking about existed too. And because no matter what the situation was, no matter what the experiences were, God remains a consistent king. There's nothing more painful. I hear you guys were talking about Umjolo a little bit earlier and how gents from a particular church, am I right? Gents from a particular church, Zwonaka. I have no comment. But what I will tell you is that this God is consistent. I'm trying today, I'm a shushu, and then tomorrow he's completely cold. He doesn't boast. He doesn't have concerns. He doesn't have other honeys in the background. You know? He's capable of focusing on you and you alone. He doesn't forget the things that you've told him. He replies to all the texts. You ever texted somebody and they just replied to the last one? My nigga, there was 5 texts. Respond to each one individually. With a separate agenda item. It was all reply 1, reply 2, reply 3, reply 4, reply 5. Not reply to the last one like I think like the other one. Don't forget that I am. I'm giving you free game here, gents. Respond to all the texts and see what happens. We have a God who is able to answer all prayers, who is ever present, who is always available. It is always convenient for him to be there for you. It is always convenient for him to love you. He relentlessly pursues you. He is consistent in his romance with you. You never have to ask him, what are we? What are we doing? And then he says, nah, we're just kidding. Now we're just chilling. Oh, babe, we want to put a title to this. Oh, I'm going to talk about this now. I think now we have more share. I like it. You know, why do you have to do such and such a thing? With God, you always know where you stand. He's very clear about what he wants from you, and he's very clear about what he wants from you. He declares his love and his affection. He serves his people. He gives his people gifts. He affirms his people. He gives them words of affirmation. He spends quality time with them. God is the only person who speaks all 5 love languages to his people and shows up and is consistent. Not only that, but I also want to encourage the older women, please give the younger women space to declare their experiences. Because look at the magnificent leaders we have now. The women that you want to shame, the unwed mothers, the divorced ones, give them space at the podium, because look at the worship track record that we have now. The ones who are not married that we don't think are relevant and important, please give them an opportunity to come up here, because look at the track record and history of praise that we have today. The widows who are pushed back into the corner after their husbands died, no longer relevant, please bring them to the podium, because look at the record of praise we have today. The older women who you think are conservative and boring and out of touch and don't have anything fascinating to say, imagine what the story of a black woman worshiping God during a birthday sounds like, and what the worship of the 2000 woman sounds like. You know, the variety and the beauty of the experiences, the difference in age, and yet the consistency of a great and powerful God. In one, you have an old woman who will tell you, oh, I saw the hand of God the first time I stopped or stepped into a voting line and was able to cast my vote and vote for a New South Africa. And then you have a millennial young woman who says, you're following God really, I've been loving it, you don't have, and that's on her. Okay? And so please do gather with each other, consult the woman with the gray hair, consult the woman with the soft young hair and no wrinkles and no freckles, because the variety of our experiences, the different threads of who we are and the times and spaces we live in, come together to form this beautiful tapestry of completeness known as the gospel. Women have a really special and particular gift when it comes to worshiping God. And they do it in a way that's different from the way that men do it. Not inferior, not superior, just different. And when you cut yourself from access to that, man, the expressions of the gospel that you miss out on because of that. But I also want to leave you encouraged that please do continue to talk about your experiences. Please do continue to approach the throne of grace and mercy. Please do continue to worship in the ways that you know how. Please continue to organize programs at hikes. Please continue to sing. Please continue to gather. Continue to take photographs. Continue to pursue your ministry in the best way you know how. It is the only way to come up with a full gospel. May the Lord go with you this week. May He cover you and encourage you.